Hello, welcome back to the podcast. I'm going to start it off with a pretty serious topic, as I'm probably going to put it in the title. Um, Last week's episode, I did like a brief 50-second, um, just like statement of what I support, what I don't. And I think after seeing the IDF airstrike a hospital, I think I should maybe talk about it a little bit more. I've been getting kind of passionate about it on Twitter. And by the way, sorry if you can hear like rain sounds in the back. I have a rain sounds thing playing to keep my mind on track. But God, I'm blocking that fucking freak. Let me look. So I've been getting into the weeds on Twitter, which I know I shouldn't be because it's pretty fruitless. I probably shouldn't be debating people. Literally debating someone in the comment section of Mark Hamill's tweets. Because that's the thing, a lot of people, I don't know what it is. I don't know if people are like ignorantly coming out in support of what Israel is doing to the Gaza Strip, or if they are coming out in support of the victims of the attack. I can't tell anymore. Like, it's one thing if you're showing support for the victims of the Hamas attack. You know, that's fine. And you know, it's fine. What Hamas did was pretty horrific. But if you then go beyond that and you support Israel's response, it's so disgusting and you're so ignorant. You're either being like purposely ignorant or you're too lazy to look into what Israel's been doing. Hamas saying that their attack was like unprovoked is being willfully stupid. What Hamas did was horrible, but what they did was not unprovoked. What they did was a response to what Israel has been doing to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank for decades now. And to the people being like, oh, well, they shouldn't be responding with violence. Look at what they're doing in the West Bank. The West Bank does not have Hamas. And yet there are like, what, 50,000 settlers, or how many people was it? 500,000, I think. How many settlers are in the West Bank? Over 450,000 Israeli settlers live in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Okay. So there are hundreds of thousands of settlers living in the West Bank. Completely wrong. These are people who have basically come in and gone, we're just going to live here. We're just going to take your land, take your housing, because we have some kind of birthright to it. They're Israeli extremists. And it's basically like if like evangelicals in the United States went to reservations, as if they don't already do this anyway, go to reservations and go, this is our house now. And they just take your home, and the government allows them to do it. Which, I mean, they basically did do that at some point, but I don't think it's happening as much now. So, you know, the West Bank is peacefully trying to coexist with the Israelis, and all they've gotten back is basically like unadulterated violence. The settlers can do whatever they want to the Palestinians in the West Bank because the IDF will just back them up unequivocally. So, saying that this attack, and same thing with the Gaza Strip, they've been bombing the Gaza Strip for decades. It's been a brutal apartheid against the Palestinians for decades now. So to call this unprovoked is the dumbest statement you can make. Now, Hamas committed a pretty horrible attack on Israel, on innocent civilians, by the way. These were innocent Israelis. And, you know, they took people hostage. And the Israeli response, instead of tactically going after Hamas, has basically been a get out of the way or we're bombing you regardless, whether you're with Hamas or not. And it's basically the American response. We're basically like, oh, there's ISIS in this region, bomb it. No matter who's there, just bomb it. That's basically been our response to terrorism in the Middle East. And Israel is just taking a page out of our book. So Israel's response is to just do bombing campaigns on the Gaza Strip. And a few days ago, they basically said evacuate the northern end of the Gaza Strip. And then the next day, they start their bombing campaign, right? And then they start bombing the evacuation routes, which is a very obvious war crime. They've been dropping phosphorus bombs on the Gaza Strip, which they've also been doing for years as well. And that completely threw me off. They've been bombing the evacuation routes, killing children, dropping phosphorus bombs, and what was the... I know there are like old stories of them sniping innocent civilians. I know they sniped a journalist, and then this was a couple of years ago, they sniped a journalist and then like went and raided her funeral. But I know in the last few days, they've been like flattening neighborhoods, committing numerous things that would be considered war crimes. And then earlier today, it's reported that they dropped an airstrike on a hospital in Gaza. And I think last I heard it's killed over 800 people. Gaza hospital strike. Let's see. What is this? PBS. Let's see if I can pull this up. This is a PBS NewsHour. I hope it's not fucking propaganda.
In Gaza, where an airstrike hit a hospital, killing hundreds. Who hit the hospital is in dispute.
Oh my god, no it's not. So that's the thing, is that... Oh yeah, I forgot my rain sounds is still playing. That's the thing, is that at first the IDF was like, oh, it was a Hamas rocket that exploded in the hospital. Which Hamas doesn't have any rockets that could level a hospital to that scale. As far as we're aware, they don't have any rockets that are capable of anything like that. And then after that was pretty much debunked, because it's really stupid to say that Hamas's own rockets went off in the fucking hospital and killed 800 people. I think it was like 500 people last I heard earlier. And now I think I've heard 800 plus. The death toll is immense. I mean, they bombed a fucking hospital. And... Sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. Not only that, they've also cut off power to the Gaza Strip. That was the other thing I was going to talk about. They've cut off power and the water supply to the Gaza Strip. And so then, this is actually an important detail to the hospital thing. The Israeli War Room tweets out a video of like a missile hitting somewhere in Gaza, and it's clearly a video from a couple of years ago. It's clearly altered. You can even see where all the buildings in the footage have power, which is not possible in the current day Gaza Strip, because they've cut off power. And then some actual footage surfaces. It's completely blacked out because it's nighttime. There's no power anywhere, and you just see an airstrike hit the hospital. So then the IDF is like, "All right, we will claim the attack on the hospital." But Hamas was like hiding in a tunnel underneath the hospital. And let's see, I tweeted out, I said, imagine if the response to a school shooting was to bomb the school because the shooter was inside. That's the defense the IDF is giving their airstrike on a civilian hospital that has killed 800 plus so far. An airstrike that they denied at first and are now taking credit for. It's literally all the people being like, Hamas is using human shields, Hamas is using human shields, is purely Israeli government propaganda, because they literally use this as an excuse every time they bomb a civilian area. They say, oh, Hamas was there. They bomb a school. They go, oh, Hamas was in there. They bomb a hospital. Oh, Hamas was in there. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make it. They use it as a scapegoat every time. They've used this recent attack that I think, killed like 1,200 Israelis. They've used this recent attack to justify basically flattening the entire Gaza Strip. And I've compared this in some of my tweet responses, which I'm not going to go through pulling them up. I don't want to do all of that. But, I've brought up how the U.S. has pretty much done the exact same thing. It's all in the imperialist war book, pretty much. It's a terrorist attack is carried out against a major superpower or a major first world country, and then that country then uses that to bolster this huge response that kills thousands of innocent civilians. I mean, we did it in Afghanistan and Iraq. We had 9/11, which was the culmination of multiple conflicts in the Middle East, us meddling heavily in the Middle East, which then resulted in this very predictable terrorist attack. Maybe not to the scale that it was at, but it was definitely to some extent predictable by intelligence agencies. And then our response is basically, now we have an excuse to invade two countries in the Middle East. One where we can say, the Al-Qaeda might be there. And then the other one, we can basically use the fear from 9/11 to justify, oh, they might have weapons of mass destruction and they're coming after us. And we use that to invade Iraq. And what do we do in Afghanistan and Iraq? We kill thousands of people, whether we think they're part of Al-Qaeda or not. Dude, even Obama is horribly guilty of this. That's like one of his major things that he's known for that has put a huge stain on his presidency, is that he drone striked multiple areas where civilians that were completely innocent were located. It's literally a page out of the American war book. It's where Israel uses an attack from Hamas, which comprises of a few thousand Palestinians, which does not represent the view of the millions of Palestinians living in the West Bank or in Gaza. They use this attack from them to justify killing Palestinians indiscriminately. You know how many children they've killed? They love bringing this up. They love bringing up the 40 quote-unquote beheaded babies in Israel, which they have claimed were beheaded. We're not even sure if that's verifiable at this point. They keep bringing that up, yet they've killed a ton of babies in Gaza now. I mean, I've seen the footage. I've seen the pictures of the, parents holding the dead children in their arms, or the, reporter reporting while in the background they're like loading these children into like minivans and makeshift ambulances. These kids that are clearly either dead or dying from attacks. And it's insane that the ultra-nationalist right-wing government of Israel, ran by Benjamin Netanyahu, basically have used this attack to facilitate this full-on genocide. I mean, that's what it's called. It's a genocide. And then we get into the optics part of it. Predictably, America is siding with Israel. Because of course they are. They historically always have. And then recently, like, a Palestinian family was attacked by their landlord. A 6-year-old boy died. And then like the mother was injured, I think was what it was. And the White House is like, "Oh, we don't stand with this in America." And it's like, "Well, you are standing with it because you're announcing your support for a government halfway across the planet that supports doing what that landlord did to that family, but on a much larger scale with a military that is funded by the United States and basically condoned by the rest of the Western world." I mean, what do you even say about that? And what I mean by optics is the whole debate on Twitter. I got into a debate with this guy who his whole Twitter profile is such a stupid gimmick. He basically argues with leftists because he's like a progressive liberal. He's not progressive. He's just a lib. He's got the Ukrainian flag in his name, which is ironic for what I'm about to say he did. He's basically telling me it's justified that Israel's going in and flattening the Gaza Strip right now, which is super ironic because Russia is doing that to Ukraine pretty much right now. They're flattening out Ukraine because they're like, we have a right to this land and we're going to use every excuse possible to take it. And yeah, this guy has a Ukrainian flag in his bio, but he's supporting Israel in this conflict. How ironic. And, people, I think the debate started because he basically implied I was a Nazi for my support of Palestinians. And I'm like, I hate this notion that if you're not on the side of the Israeli government, then you're anti-Semitic. I've been called anti-Semitic for siding with the Palestinians. I've gotten into that argument with a lot of people that I know. And it's like, no, I don't view Israel as this as the end all be all of opinion for all Jewish people. To view Israel in that way, it's stupid. It's like when Trump was president, it's like if somebody from Britain was like calling me a racist, I'd be like, I'm not. I just live in America and I'm an American. That doesn't mean I agree with what my government's doing. Over half the people in Israel don't agree with what the government is doing there. A lot of Israelis don't like Netanyahu or his government or their policies. And to say that because I don't side with Israel, when I say Israel, I'm not talking about the people there. I'm talking about the government. What the government stands for, what the government is saying they're about. And the government is even outwardly calling Palestinians Nazis as well. They're using it to fuel this whole, emotional thing in some Israelis where they're like, you know what? Yeah, they are Nazis, and it is justified that we're going in and bombing them. That's basically what they're trying to do. A lot of Israelis see through that. There are more Israelis that see this as a genocide of the Palestinian people than there are Americans that see this as a genocide of the Palestinian people. There are way more Americans that stand with Israel because we aren't there. The Americans are not there. They're not hearing the bombs go off every night. They're not experiencing the conflict. They haven't voted in an Israeli election. They haven't considered the issues. As an American, if I spoke on German politics, what the hell do I know about German politics? I don't live there. I've never voted there. What do I know about that? I'm only speaking about the Israeli conflict because I've read a lot about it, and many historians, including Holocaust historians, have all said that this very much is the textbook definition of a genocide. And the reason why it's important that Holocaust historians are saying this is because Israel was created as a response to the Holocaust. And so it's this very gross, ironic situation where Israel is now trying to be like, this is our land, we are laying claim to it, and they're using, identity and all that. They're using it to bolster this base, to garner support, to flatten the Gaza Strip, and basically, eventually they're going to call the settlers back from the West Bank and then flatten out the West Bank. That's what they did to the Gaza Strip. They called all the settlers back from the Gaza Strip so they could just start indiscriminately missiling the Gaza Strip. So it's not anti-Semitic to criticize the Israeli government. It's not. It's really not. Do I have an issue with the Israeli people? Of course not. If someone's criticizing the American government, I'm not going to be like, oh, they hate Americans. I'm not going to say that. They don't like the American government and its policies. I don't like the American government and its policies right now. But that doesn't mean I hate Americans. So, you can support Palestinians. You can support Palestinians' right to exist. You can support Israelis and their right to not be killed for not doing anything. They have not, to be killed in the name of the sins of their government. That's not right. Obviously, I don't support Hamas, but I have a nuanced enough take or understanding of it that I can understand why Hamas exists, why the Israeli government has facilitated the existence of Hamas. It's not justified that Hamas is killing innocent civilians, but to say that you don't understand why Hamas exists or you don't understand why this attack happened, it's ignorant. It's stupid. You're ignorant if you don't understand why Hamas exists. It'd be the same thing as if you were like, I don't understand why ISIS exists, or I don't understand why Afghanistan is in shambles right now. It'd be just like that. That would be incredibly stupid to not understand why ISIS was created and why it formed in the first place. It'd be incredibly stupid not to understand why Afghanistan has been left in ruins. The government is in pieces right now. It's completely... we basically toppled their government, like half-ass ran it for a couple decades, and it's no surprise that when we leave, the Taliban is able to take it over within a few days. It'd be stupid and ignorant to not know why these things are happening. Israel knows that the only solution to get rid of Hamas is to stop segregating and continuing the apartheid of the Palestinians. The only solution here is to find peace and to stop the continued violence against the Palestinians. Now, the solutions I've seen, I seem to have naturally come to the conclusion that a one-state solution would work. I didn't know that was actually a very... not a very common thing for people to come to that conclusion on. I've heard a lot of two-state solutions, which I would argue is not very smart. If it's a two-state solution, then Israel basically gets off scot-free and can continue blocking off the borders and all that. A one-state solution would at least give Israelis the land, but also let Palestinians coexist peacefully, and then Israel can pay reparations to the Palestinians. That's the ideal world. Maybe it's naive, but it's the ideal solution to this conflict, at least in my eyes, is a one-state solution where they can all coexist peacefully. God, what a heavy topic. Now, realistically, due to Israel being a capitalist, right-leaning nation, just based on how the government operates there, I'm not saying that the people there are right wing. Obviously their population is very similar to our population in terms of ideology, due to politics and economics and all that. So like America, they might not do reparations, but like South Africa, even if the apartheid ends, it's very possible they might continue the economic segregation. I don't know if people are familiar, but in South Africa, it's very famous, the photos of these shanty towns, these really poor, low-income neighborhoods, and then there's a fence, and it's this super wealthy, predominantly white neighborhood, predominantly people of British descent that came to, their ancestors came to South Africa and lived a good life, and they have reaped the intergenerational benefits of that. There's similar examples of that in the U.S. New Orleans is a very popular example of like the pictures of all the poor neighborhoods literally bordering right next to these super high-end wealthy neighborhoods. And it's no surprise that they're predominantly white in the wealthy areas and predominantly black in the poor areas due to intergenerational inequality and, the white people benefiting off of intergenerational wealth, the black people, being disadvantaged by centuries of slavery and then a century of segregation with no reparations. There's examples of it everywhere. Everywhere that has had some form of apartheid or segregation end, more than likely has not come to a very good solution to rectify that in the aftermath. They think, oh, well, everyone has equal rights now. It should just level itself out. And that's never how it works in a capitalist country. There's always going to be a lot of economic inequality. So in an ideal world, Israel will supply aid and pay reparations to the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip, living in the West Bank. They'll pay to repair everything. They'll especially give reparations to the families they've destroyed, ripped apart. They will begin imprisoning settlers that enact violence on Palestinians that have done nothing wrong. There's that really famous example from a couple of years ago where that guy from Brooklyn, who I guess happened to be Jewish, went on like a birthright trip to Israel, because that's something that Israel does. They do birthright trips for Jewish people that live, I think, in like Europe and the United States. I'm not sure if they do it in other parts of the world, but you can do a birthright trip, and the guy basically went to the West Bank and just took this family's house. Brooklyn man takes Palestinian home. Sure, it'll come up. And the dude's American. AlJazeera.com. Now, let me get it off YouTube, actually. Yeah, he said, if I don't steal your home, someone else will. How crazy is that? That was his argument. Let me unmute it and I'll show the footage.
You are stealing my house.
It's still Algiers.
If I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي. You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
Yeah, this guy just showed up and he's like trying to take this family's home. And that's his whole argument, is he's like, if I don't do it, someone else will. And the depressing part, yeah,
Jacob,
East Jerusalem is technically part of the West Bank. It's part of Palestinian territory. So that's where they do this a lot at too.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back.
Because East Jerusalem's easy to get to in terms of like geographical
So what's the problem?
sense.
Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do
And
this.
he's like, he's like gaslighting her.
you are stealing my house.
And it's because he knows that if all he has to do is call the Israeli police, the IDF will show up and they'll side with him. The IDF is an insanely violent military force. And they will pretty much just show up and be like, yep, this is this guy's home now. Sorry. He has a birthright to it. And they lose their house. This is a really common problem in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank, where all the settlers are. This doesn't happen in the Gaza Strip, and it's because Israel has pretty much closed off the Gaza Strip to the rest of Israel. If you look at maps, even, I mean, they have pretty much they pretty much have this giant electronic border where if you try to cross the border from Gaza into Israel, then the IDF will shoot at you and they will kill you. So the Palestinians are pretty much trapped there. I mean, Gaza is described as the biggest open air prison in the world, or at least it's the most dense. Gaza has like, how many people are in Gaza? Gaza population. That doesn't seem right. I thought there were 2 million people living in Gaza. Oh, that's just telling me the Gaza City population. Yeah, the total amount of people living in the Gaza Strip is 2 million. And let's see. The Gaza Strip is 25 miles long and 10 kilometers wide. 365 square kilometers in size. Yeah, it's the most densely packed part of the world. It's landlocked by the Mediterranean and Israel and Egypt, and they're pretty much trapped there. I don't know why it gave me the population of Gaza City. Gaza City has 500,000 Palestinians in it. Probably not anymore, because they've probably fled the city or because so many of them have died at this point. This was the 2017 population. I forgot that guy's tweet. He said, like, to put it into perspective, I think it was like, if you were to compare somewhere in the US to the Gaza Strip, I think he used Rhode Island. Like, essentially, to make it, like, to scale it, if you were to landlock Rhode Island, like, landlock their borders off, and there were 26 million people in Rhode Island. Like, that's how dense the Gaza Strip is. That there are 2 million people in a... How long did it say it was? It said it was 25 miles long. So yeah, you packed 2 million people in a 25-mile long... how many is 10 kilometers in miles? How big is the Gaza Strip? I mean, let's just look at it. Yeah, a fucking 25-mile by 6-mile piece of land. You're basically trapping this condensed 2 million people there. Dude, you huck a missile in there, it's gonna kill like a few hundred people. You know? It's the most densely packed part of the world. So it's so dehumanizing. I mean, there's a lot of Israelis, and the Israeli government included, that don't even see the Palestinians as people. There's a lot of Americans that don't even see the Palestinians as people. You know? There was a time when Google wouldn't even show Palestine in its search results on, like, a map. I think now it auto does it to, like, Israel, and, like, it'll highlight the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and all that, which is still not great. But like, I remember there was a small period of time where they just straight up, like, you would look up Palestine, click maps, and it would be like, it would direct you to that part of the part of the world, but it wouldn't, like, highlight anything. And that was at the height of I think that was 2018. That was like when things were starting to ramp up. That was like the beginning of the end, pretty much. And yeah, I mean, it just shows the attitude that Americans have towards Palestinians. I don't know what else I can say. You know, I really don't. I really don't know what more I can say, man. Awesome Yusuf going on Piers Morgan. Might be the best use of satire I've ever seen be displayed. Wait, what? I want to watch this. Oh. Since I'm on the topic.
And I understand, and I also heard Ben Shapiro talking about Human Shield. So you remember my wife's family, they live in Gaza. So I asked them, I told them, when Israel give you the nice warning, the cute warning, does Hamas force you to stay in your home so you can be bombed and use as human shield? You know what? Hassan here, my wife's cousin. He's a loser. You know. He told me. You know, when I asked him, does that happen? He told me no. The lying son of a bitch lied to me. I told him, you don't understand. Ben Shapiro and Ron DeSantis keep saying that Israel warned you and Hamas asked you to stay put. So I told you, he's a loser. He never kept a job. He even like failed in all of the interviews to become like a human shield.
Oh, he's just fucking
I
with
would
Piers
believe
Morgan.
Ben Shapiro.
Let me ask you this,
So
Bassam.
let's go with that. Let's.
Isn't this the guy who runs like that Daily Show equivalent in Egypt and he got arrested like a decade ago? Let me see. Bassam Yusuf. Yeah, I think I'm right. Talk show. Yeah. Yeah. He hosted I can't pronounce that. But yeah, no, he hosted like a Daily Show equivalent in Egypt, and the Egyptian president didn't like that he was making fun of his hat, and they threw him in prison. Yeah, because Jon Stewart talked about it. I literally watched the Daily Show when that was happening. Damn, this dude's like
Let me ask you this.
a seasoned dude, and he's like a seasoned guy in this topic.
Point I must be able to ask you.
He literally lives in Egypt.
It's not a monologue for you, Bassam.
if we agree that for the 14,000 casualties, I mean, who's counting, our human shield, does that mean that every single one of those civilians was standing, obscuring a military target behind them? Because that's a lot of weapons. I mean, Hamas is packing.
No, of course it doesn't. And look,
So there's some collateral damage. Lots of collateral damage.
Yes.
It's fine. Yeah, you kill some to save some, and then kill some more. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
well,
I agree.
let me ask you this. Again, it comes back to proportionate response.
Holy
when
shit.
The world,
Yes.
when the
That was insane. Damn, dude, he like ragdolled them on that fucking thing, dude. Oh my god. Wow. Sorry. That was a little bit more lighthearted. Kind of took the weight off of me for a minute. I just went like 32 minutes straight going off about this topic, so it's one of those things where like I don't talk about politics openly. Like I'll talk about it to people and I follow it very closely and I'm very knowledgeable on it and I'll post about it. I'll tweet about it, but talking about it is so much harder. You know, when oh god, Wikipedia is blaming it on Hamas. Fuck off. When you're sitting in front of a mic or in front of a camera, it's harder to like encyclopedia pull, you know, like index and pull from stuff you've learned. Like sometimes you need the sources in front of you. It's why like political streamers always amaze the shit out of me, because like people like like Hassan or I'm trying to think of other political live streamers. Even like Ethan on H3 can do it sometimes, which is insane because I feel like he's like kind of like the everyman in politics. He thinks very similar to just like any average guy with, more progressive views than normal. But Hassan can just like that, just pull info from something where he'll start talking about something I've never even heard of. And it'll be like this obscure piece of political knowledge that's like super important from like a few years ago. I remember something from like 6 years ago politically that's still relevant. And I'm like, I can't do that. And it's always made me super self-conscious ever talking about politics on here. I think it's why I didn't even want to touch the Israel-Palestine stuff last week. And it's because I didn't really feel like I had the confidence to talk about it yet, at least in like a meaningful way. And now it's like it's all in my head. It's all I've been thinking about all week. This hospital thing just happened. I'm pissed about it. I can talk about it. I can kind of go off the cuff with this one. But yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm trying to find more info on this. But Here's a side note to kind of lighten the mood. Today in the MCU, I guess Iron Man dies. That's interesting. I didn't know. I forgot. But anyways, back to Israel Gaza. Just wanted to make a little side note. Kind of take my mind off of it for like a split second. Let's unmute. Oh yeah, hold on. I gotta keep I gotta keep remembering to cut that off.
Be really clear. NBC News is not able to get into Gaza right now. The Israeli border is sealed. The Egyptian border is sealed. Our teams are not able to get there and to verify this directly. We should also say that the Israeli military at this point is not providing any evidence to back up its claims that this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. They are citing intelligence that they have not yet made public. We should also say that this kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets. These rockets are dangerous, they are deadly, they do not tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. So many people have been coming on Twitter blowing shit out their ass about this, being like, oh, it's a Hamas rocket. Oh, it's, their rockets are super cheap and, they could just like go off and then kill 800 fucking people in a hospital. They could level a hospital. If that was the case, why aren't more Israelis dead? If they have missiles that powerful, how come they can't just lop them over the border and blow up entire villages? I mean, that's crazy, dude. They could blow up the border with that kind of firepower. There's no way. That's an airstrike. And I know people are going to be like, oh, the Iron Dome would stop, blah, blah, blah. You get my point. There's no way a ragtag group of terrorists made a bomb that powerful that just accidentally goes off in a hospital. And then there's also some footage, literally, of the airstrike. And Israel is known to lie about this stuff, too. They are very known for lying about stuff like this. I'm very glad that MSNBC at least raised the question. Oh, there's a part 2.
Tend to kill hundreds of people in a single strike in the way that Israeli high explosives, especially these bunker buster bombs that are used to target these Hamas tunnels under Gaza City, do have the potential to kill hundreds of people. And we should say finally that there are instances in the past where the Israeli military has said things in the immediate aftermath of an incident that have turned out not to be true in the long run. And the one example I'll give you is that when the Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was killed in the occupied West Bank, the Israeli military initially said that she was killed by Palestinian gunmen, and it was only months and months later.
See what I mean? This is exactly what I'm talking about. They said that that journalist was killed by Palestinians, and it came out later. I mean, he'll explain it.
That they admitted that it was likely an Israeli soldier who fired the fatal shot. So
there you go. That's what I was talking about when I was saying Israel is known for lying about shit like this. That's an example right there. They were like, oh, no, it was a Palestinian that probably killed a journalist that clearly had the fucking thing that said press on her chest, dude. Clearly. Oh, I didn't even mention the roof warning thing that they do. What's it called? What do they call it? They call it, what do they call it? Like roof something. Israel roof knocking. Yeah. So humane, by the way. So humane. Where's that clip that I saw where it shows an example of roof knocking? Turn that down. Christ. lot of explosions from what I'm seeing. Where's that clip? Is it not in this? Roof knocking is basically where they send in a missile as like a warning shot, and then a minute later they level the whole building. Yeah, they're just like leveling apartment buildings indiscriminately. Yeah, I'm not showing it because it was an age-restricted video, and if I show it, I automatically get dinged, but yeah. It's called roof knocking. It's where they send in a missile, it blows something up, it's basically like a warning shot. You have 1 minute to evacuate. One whole minute. So generous. So generous. And then they level the whole building. You know, real humanitarians, you know. It's ridiculous. How inhumane. Also, the fact that I mentioned it earlier, the phosphorus bombs. I feel like enough people aren't talking about that they've been using phosphorus bombs for years now, especially now. Like, is that not chemical warfare at that point? Like, how is that not considered chemical warfare? Which is very illegal, by the way. That's an international war crime, man. You're not allowed to use chemical weapons in any war scenario, especially now that he's declared war on this terrorist group. That's what I'm saying, man. It's bullshit. This whole war. It's literally like, oh, this terrorist group attacked us. Now we're going to just flatten out an entire region. A region that we've, like, coincidentally been ethnically cleansing for the last few decades. I don't even know what more to say about it, you know? I really don't. Following an additional review and cross-examination of operational and intelligence systems, it is clear that the IDF did not strike the hospital in Gaza. Interesting. Man, I totally believe the IDF. Important to note that the unverified theory being promoted by people on here that an intercepted rocket fragment fell on the hospital and killed hundreds of people is not the IDF's official explanation. Dude, what? They just admit it. Say it with your chest. It's the same argument I have for the people that say let's go Brandon instead of fuck Joe Biden. Just say it. If you're the IDF, just say it. You have the world's support, you know? With the US, they're a little bit more sneaky about it, but when they're caught, they just outright say it. That they've done something horrible. And it's horrible, but they're saying it. I don't have to, like, contest it, you know? Israel is like, they're such fucking bitches, dude. They're such wusses. They bomb a hospital, kill hundreds of innocent civilians, and then they go, we didn't do that. And then eventually when they do admit it, they're like, but like, there were terrorists in there. Suck a dick. And that's always going to be their scapegoat, you know? They bomb a school, it's because Hamas was in there. Bomb an apartment building. Isn't that a reason that they used to destroy an Associated Press building a couple of years ago? Because they said Hamas was in there? With no evidence. Anytime they ever say, like, oh, Hamas was in that building, they destroy the building before they give any evidence. And then they're like, oh, but all the evidence is gone now. We already destroyed it. And then the UN's like, what the fuck? And then they go, oh, but like, it's fine. You can keep doing what you're doing. Go ahead, Israel. Anyway, I'm done. I've exhausted the topic. I have nothing else to talk about. So, anyways, I guess I'll, make another episode of this next week. And I almost took the week off. I was almost too overwhelmed to even make this. So, but I got it off my chest. So, all right. Thanks for watching. And, free Palestine. God bless the Palestinians. God bless the Israeli victims as well, but, fuck the Israeli government. Genocidal freaks.